Well, welcome everybody. I'm here with the founders of Centero, a remarkable prop tech platform. And I got to tell you guys, I'm absolutely astounded with what you can do and the several verticals that this can breach into. But right now, you guys are really focused on property management. The founder, Stephen Winsby, as well as Dan Cunningham. Guys, this is amazing what you've been able to do. Why don't we just start off with some introductions here? Steve, Dan, we'll start with you, Stephen. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you and Dan got connected.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Izzy. I appreciate you having Dan and I on. From my background perspective, just like everybody involved in this business, we come from a deep and long career in multifamily real estate and technology. And my background has been predominantly involved in everywhere in the ecosystem in the multifamily business, from acquisitions, development, construction, building operations, asset management, disposition. I know the business extraordinarily well, and it's been my career. I've been involved directly with hundreds of thousands of apartment units across America and in Latin America. In most of the capacities I've been in has been in mostly senior executive roles, COO, president roles, leading and starting operations. Recently, I participated in building out a completely vertically integrated multifamily operating platform in Mexico. And what was interesting about that is the challenges with staffing, a nascent new industry, so training, the technology stack, things that we'll veer into our conversation later about Centero. And then most recently, based upon the subject matter expertise, I was a global consultant for a real estate consulting firm specializing in multifamily and the topic of centralization in mostly in Europe and in the United States. And currently, I am 100% dedicated and focused to Centero. No side hustles, no anything. This is the focus, and this is what we're going to be successful with together.
So obviously, Stephen, you've seen all the incredible challenges that properties would have, and the years that were working with all these different properties around the world, you've sort of built up this pent up anger, if you will, of gosh, this can be done better, especially with technology. And then in steps Dan. Dan, bring us up to speed with your background.
So I've been in both the technical and the operations side of multifamily real estate for over 20 years, almost 25 years. Starting with a career at Aimco, which at the time was the largest multifamily REIT in the country, and then later running a property management company in Los Angeles. But I've since founded three prop tech companies, all of which are still in market right now, have created about 700 million in enterprise value. And most recently, I was CEO of a company I founded called Leonardo 24/7, where I've recently just moved into the chairman role, which has allowed me to spend more time with Stephen on this effort. And my background really is very deeply rooted in trying to understand how one brings technology to an industry which is very much rooted in tradition. Change management has been difficult, and bringing technology to create efficiencies, and frankly revolutionizing the way multifamily properties have been managed and operated. And I think what we're doing here is a great next step in that ambition.
So you know what I find exciting about this is, if in fact what our analysts are saying are true, that there is a tremendous shortage in the housing market right now, you guys just make it that much more effective and scalable to manage properties. Because as you're scaling and you have different properties, you got to bring on headcount, you got to bring on these teams to manage it. Stephen, what are your thoughts on that? Am I on the right track with the thinking here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that fits on the back end of what Daniel was saying about the topic of centralization. And it's not only the scaling ability, but it's the efficiency and cost reduction. And right now, because of the pressure on operating margins in real estate, there's an unapologetic approach to try to reduce costs, and a lot of that has to do with labor. And that really fits into what resonated for Daniel and I to think about the story and the genesis for this business. It was really when he and I met 15 years ago, we've carried on this conversation of why do we need these roles in the positions they're in on site? What if you don't need them to be on site? And how do you solve that? Like, how do you find a way to to accomplish that, feeling for that, you know. And so then he and I found a way to leverage various technologies and to build a stack that can solve that. And at the foundation of it is, you know, he and I found hologram as a solution maybe to have this nothing closer to in-person experience on site. And so then essentially we kind of said, let's build a company that allows multifamily operators, you know, to centralize their staff off-site, upscale the roles, improve efficiency, a lower cost just by leveraging hologram technology. And of course, we'll be heavily influenced with AI.
So I got to ask you, when you talk about a hologram, I mean, I'm thinking about all the other verticals as well, related to, I guess, hospitality, maybe a hotel, not just an apartment complex or even an office complex for that matter. What does that look like in what's available today and how to implement this when you think about maybe, oh, I don't know, a Marriott, a Hilton hotel, anything like that, or an Class A or Class B apartment complex? Can you give me some context to that?
Yeah, Izzy, that's I think a great lens. You know, the beauty of labor and staffing is it doesn't discriminate against any product type. So it isn't Class A or Class B, and it could approach any type of vertical. It's really any situation where you want to make staffing on demand, but yet the consumer wants to still have that intimate human intervention at some point in their customer journey. So instead of having that person 100%, they're waiting to do 10% of the activities. You take that 1-to-1 model and you expand it to 1-to-4. Maybe you leverage AI and you go to 1-to-10. But it's an enterprise solution where there's any place where staff can be scaled, but you still want to have that human touch.
Yeah, I think it's important to,
I
think it's important to expand a little bit for those that aren't familiar with the company and the product at this point, because when we talk about a hologram, sometimes that evokes like the little Princess Leia projection on the table.
Tupac.
And the device in our case is a life-size, you know, refrigerator-sized device that's creating a as Stephen was saying, a real in-person experience. And I think that's really the key here is this is not this is why this is superior to say, well, let's just put somebody on Zoom. Let's just have them on our phone, right? That's not an in-person experience. With this hologram device, you are directly dealing with somebody that feels like they are 3 feet from you. And so in those instances, as Stephen said, when the in-person experience matters, right? In a high-end hotel concierge scenario where you want to feel like you're getting an in-person personalized experience in an apartment complex where there's an issue that's really important to the resident that they want to make sure it's handled by a person and not not somebody who's just on a screen somewhere. Like that's really what we're bringing to the table. That's the hologram portion of this. It's not exclusively what we're doing. There's other ways to interface and achieve what Stephen's talking about. I just want to set context on
yeah, no, thanks, Daniel. That's really important. I think to add to that is in terms of the platform of the product, that hologram experience would be the on-site, but still the customer really wants to do it in any omni-channel they'd like. And so we will then have a mobile app that brings forward that as well. But it's really just kind of making it on demand. So instead, it's more like a Netflix for the consumer to have access to staffing because really they don't care. They just want their problems solved.
Right, right. I love that. And, you know, that's why I love these opportunities for folks like yourself to share, where if the saying is true, a picture's worth 1,000 words, then what's a video worth? In fact, I'm going to jump to your website, Centero AI. And folks, as you're listening in here, there's a link that'll be coming up here where you can click on that to get on my schedule to learn some more information about what's going on with Centero, the offer that they're doing right now. As we're not going to go into the granular details of all that right now, I just want you to get some insight into the remarkable platform that they've built and what they're needing some capital for on the use of proceeds. But I'm going to jump to your website, Centero.ai, and I'm going to go ahead and show this video. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Centero.
Can you guys
At
turn down the fan
Centero,
your
we
side?
deliver a
Yeah, we
solution
can.
for multifamily operators and commercial real estate users to centralize their staff, enhancing efficiency and reducing costs through innovative hologram technology and AI. Let's look at a real-world example from a potential multifamily property in Anywhere, USA.
Hey Zoe, how are you?
Oh, hi. It's a real person.
Yes, indeed, I'm a real person. I was at the property last week. Now I'm available for you when you need me.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm having a problem with my fire alarms.
Okay, well let me get somebody right now to take care of that, and I'll have them come in the office there where you are and meet with you on the topic.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
The virtual property manager may broadcast with a simple mobile solution, enabling seamless holographic interactions beamed to the property's spontaneity or by setting an appointment, ensuring residents feel as if they're speaking face to face with zero latency.
I feel heard, so it does give me less frustration. So even if I were to come to this frustrated, I think being able to correspond with somebody in real time allows me to, again, I want to feel heard as a renter.
Pause this right here a second, because what I think is remarkable about that is when you think about problems that people have, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe where it really requires someone to interact with them. A lot of times the hotels, the property manager, they're very lax on that. And if you can have a centralized 24/7, 365 experience, that just elevates the customer service level, which I think is remarkable. Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, let me make comments, and Dan will have you add on to it. But you have that right. I mean, the data that we've collected is suggesting that there's even more pressure on the quality of human intervention as there's more technology solutions for the customer to guide their own journey. So when they get to the human, they have to be better. They have to be crisper. They need AI support, and they need training and consistency. The ability to centralize this and elevate the role, and also be able to offer higher compensation because the scale provides the efficiency delivering the results to the property, that it ends up that it's a win-win for everybody. The customer gets better, the property gets a lower cost, and then obviously Centero offers the solution. So you have that absolutely right.
What other angles do you see with the value of having that live person there?
Well, there's some other interesting, especially in the multifamily industry, there are a number of challenges with staffing that are only getting worse and have gotten worse since COVID. It has always been a difficult industry to attract great people. It's a very difficult industry. It's hard on folks. There's a lot of turnover. Since COVID, there's been a lot of remote work that's really pulled property managers away from this industry as a profession. So it's very difficult to attract people, first of all. And so the opportunity to take a person and be able to share them amongst a number of locations so that they're delivering that value on demand, they're not sitting there all the time, allows great people to be distributed across multiple properties, which really helps alleviate that the staffing issue. In addition to that, there are costs obviously associated with staffing. There's overhead and training being a major issue in the multifamily industry, that once we centralize these remote managers in a pod, the training of those folks, the esprit de corps with those folks, all of that gets better. There are other, in this industry in particular, some nuanced issues with incidents with residents, sometimes shielding a property manager from what can be very, let's say, divisive conversations. We're talking about people who are getting evicted sometimes, or sometimes their dog needs to be removed because it's the wrong breed. Having a person who's there in person, but not subject to physical abuse, verbal abuse, those sort of things, really creates an environment for the managers that's superior to what they're experiencing right now. And so there are some nuanced effects of migrating to this method that maybe don't add to ROI, but are impactful to the business in a meaningful way.
Oh, no question about it. And I can see that for sure. I can also see how it would make the experience sticky for clientele, if you will. where they just know they're going to be getting white glove service and attention. Maybe if they even recognize, to your point, Stephen, you were saying this could be used for in any application. It doesn't have to be a class A or B type of property. So I love that. Let's jump to what that looks like, where you were bringing up something related to costs. So folks, again, click on the link if you want to get on my schedule and learn more details. We can go into the granular details of the particular raise that they're doing. But I do want to talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as where most investors would say hardware is the kiss of death. This is way more than that. This is so much more. It's an interactive platform that can be used in different verticals as well. But why don't you talk a little bit about what it's going to take as your go-to-market strategy is implemented when you're funded to get some of these out into locations and have them either piloted or beta tested or however you're doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Izzy. A couple things. First off, the hardware piece, as Daniel and I early on had started the journey of finding hologram an interesting solution for this. We have since struck a national relationship with the hardware provider. The hardware is not on the balance sheet for our firm. It's purchased by the client, and we have the exclusivity in the space in the United States to deliver this product. And so we figured out a way to make a bit of a moat around that and be successful. In terms of the go-to-market for this, I think maybe there's some context that could be added how Daniel and I think about this. So first off, the market, there's around 35 million apartments in America. And if you take those over 50 units a piece, that's about 700,000 properties. Our target for an enterprise solution is really slightly larger institutional properties. So properties that have 200 units or more. And within that, there's 100,000 properties that have that. There's around 25 million units. So that's in terms of the target market. Daniel and I, based upon our network and career in the industry, each of us, combined, we have relationships with about 3 million operators of around 3 million units. So that's around 15,000 properties. Our business plan for Centero in our 3-year plan to get to the successful ARR we're targeting is around 2,000 properties. So Daniel and I personally know operators around 15,000. In the last year, as we've been working through and refining this process, I personally have met with around 100 operators. Those 100 operators have around 400,000 units. So 2,000 properties in those units. And
incredible.
And further to that, as we're working through our beta client set we have, initially it's 4 to 6 beta clients, but it's really a land and expand. So because it's an enterprise solution, they will contribute 4 or 5 properties each to the beta pilot. But the intent is that those are highly successful to expand into their portfolio upon successfully implementing the go-to-market. Those beta clients, Izzy, have around 600 properties. So essentially, the way I see the math on this is I can achieve 15% penetration on the beta clients and achieve the year 1 revenue for Centero. 50% of the beta clients, we can achieve half of year 2. And then with the relationships that Daniel and I have, we've got a lot of work to do, right? It isn't that easy on math, but you can see based upon the relationship, the network, and the history that we have, that we know the market's there. And even if we achieve equal or greater than our business plan, that's less than 2% of the market that we need to achieve overall. So I thought it might provide some context to see what the multifamily market looked like, Daniel and I's specific relationship, where we are with beta clients, and how that might translate into successful revenue for Centero.
So, Stephen, as I look at this, where you're implementing this technology, it begs the question, is a property manager or owner of these properties going to say, yeah, I don't want to be able to save money on these properties, be able to help with turnover rate, serve my clientele better? Say that out loud 3 times. I don't think you'll get past the first time where you're like, yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to have this. It makes total sense. But being able to understand my investment side, when do I see that money back and the kind of money I'm truly going to save? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, you've nailed exactly what the sales proposition is for this, is along the line you mentioned. First off, I want to mention, in terms of the hardware, we have designed a facility that clients can either lease or finance the equipment. Again, once again, it's not on the balance sheet of Centero. But what's really compelling to the clients is not the objective of the hardware, but the ROI and the payback period based upon the forecasted labor efficiency savings. And so with this, what we've done is found through many test cases that the client can have a payback in less than 6 months and have a 65% ROI in year 2. And so these properties then can subsequently, these 200-unit properties I mentioned from earlier, can save $30,000 a year in payroll. That's the compelling. You're absolutely right. There's no going back. It's very sticky.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And you nailed that for sure. And the way I look at it is, and folks, I don't know if you heard what Steven said there. This isn't going on the balance sheet, the hardware of Centero. It's sort of like if I want excellent service from Verizon, I'm going to choose an iPhone, a Samsung device, whatever it is. They get to choose whatever the hardware setup. You guys are implementing the technology in the back end of that centralized service that's going to provide their clientele the white glove service that they're looking for at any level, class A, B, or below. So I think that's really, really strong. And as we begin to sunset this conversation here, because we're running out of time, I really want investors to understand the scalability when it comes to that. It's not like this is really hard. When you say hologram, I think people, again, like we were saying earlier, start to get that Star Wars vision in their head. It doesn't necessarily have to look like that. It is pretty slick. But can you talk to us about the simple implementation of this and how it can scale as properties would say, I want this everywhere. We just tested it at our Hilton locations, at our Marriott Residence Inn. I want this at the next 1,000 locations in 2 or 3 years, whatever it is. So what does that look like?
Yeah, the implementation actually is quite easy. We've designed the system initially that there are no integrations with other software platforms. It's a standalone system, plug and play. The hardware is delivered. The software relative to the mobile app, et cetera, will be on a platform that's accessible to residents. They'll probably use that as much or more than the hardware, candidly. And then as we continue to leverage the AI tools that will allow to scale the human further, then the property will see and enjoy even greater savings. But in terms of the integration and the technical nuances, there is fatigue in the industry on prop tech. We've solved that by making this the plug and play. I mean, I hate to say Fisher Price simple, but it is a simple solution that they can plug and play. And that was designed with intent to offset the fatigue that some are suggesting they're having with tech.
Love it. Love that.
Yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the IP that we're creating here is unrelated to the device itself, right? The device is the delivery form factor for this experience. Yep. But the IP is the routing software, the video software. There is an exchange of data that allows the person who's about to interact with the resident to receive information about that resident. So they step into this experience saying, "Hello, Stephen. I see you're in unit 202. There's facial recognition, so we know who's approaching the device." So there's a lot. The IP the value of IP that we're developing is really behind the device, and not to mention, Stephen just touched on it now, but the AI that can be introduced over time that can supplant like even the human interaction when possible, where maybe the first, like the basic interactions are all with an avatar or some other AI representation that can handle the basic stuff, and then the human comes in when it gets sticky or it becomes emotional, whatever that is. That's how you further scale this out, so that one person, maybe they're managing 4 apartments at the initial outset of Centero, but in years down the road, that one person can handle 10 or more properties, and that's where real skill and savings start to really kick in for the clients.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Izzy, one thing that's really important to the clients that are considering the product are saying is they really like that we're going to be able to capture the voice of the customer. That there's no one in the industry now that is capturing every word, and all those words will be converted into structured data. And then, as Dana mentioned, those will be leveraged into an LLM and subsequently be able to utilize AI to further enhance the success of the role and to scale further, where we can introduce AI avatars, digital twins, and things that can fit even further between the human interaction to scale that role further. But that's ultimately, it's really an AI and data, but the pieces on the front end you do to capture those. But it's really AI and data that make this business very successful.
Love it. Love it. Folks, again, click on the link there to get on my schedule. We're going to start doing our final comments and allow you guys to sunset the conversation here. But click on there. We can get some time, potentially introduce you to Stephen and Dan of Centero. Of course, if it merits that, but I'd love to get your questions answered. Guys, your final thoughts on what you would love investors to know and to recognize about Centero that really differentiates you in prop tech. I think you've had a lot of great comments from folks that you've showed this to and showcased the technology with, and everyone's giving you thumbs up. I think everyone wants to see this in the marketplace. So Dan, we'll start with you, your final thoughts, and then Stephen, wrap it up.
Excellent.
Well, I think that what we're doing here at Centero maybe 5 years would have seemed fantastical, like impossible, that you could deliver this experience. And I think now what we're learning is we're seeing that we're moving. This idea is something that we are moving to across a lot of fronts. And if it's not Centero, it will be somebody. This is obviously how many businesses will start delivering their customer experience, their customer service. And we're really happy to be at the forefront of this. And just real quickly, I mean, they're for your investors. I think it's important to know that there are a lot of avenues for an exit here. There are a number of venture capital firms that are really focused on prop tech that have significant funds. Warburg Pincus has a $16 billion fund. JMI has a $2 billion fund. Excel KKR is a $3 billion fund. Like this kind of solution fits very well into their thesis about prop tech. And Stephen, there's PMS platform, there's others maybe you want to mention, but there are a lot of options once this company has been operating for a few years and is generating the kind of revenue that we projected. There'll be a lot of options for us to exit and provide a very healthy return to investors in a short amount of time.
That's really exciting. Thanks for that. Your final thoughts, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I'll circle back on the opportunities for exit and monetization, which I think is important to all of us. The other thing, too, is I just want to reinforce how much I value and appreciate investors and the fiduciary responsibility they give to us and how important that investment is. The amount we're seeking, over half of it will be applied to product and technology. The remainder of it is some in key staffing, but limited, and a fair amount of marketing and getting prepared to go market. But what's more important for me is not how the money's spent, it's what we get for it. And what we will be getting for that will be achieving our MVP, developing our product, onboarding our beta clients, proving revenue, and preparing over the next 12 months to make this an enterprise solution that then we can expand the market nationally with the platform. So it's really about what we get for it, more so than how we're spending it. But the nice thing is, again, is a capital. It's a market we just got to be very thoughtful with how we spend the money, and we need to make sure we get what we need. We also have completely built out the architecture for our software, and so we're going into this with no surprises. I already have multiple bids with various developers. We're not going in blindfolded. We're going in knowing what we need to spend to get what we need to deliver for our investors. And then circling back to what Daniel said. That's absolutely right. There's I think several ways, in addition to what Daniel described, there's a very active market with property management software solutions that are currently in the market that have about 75% market share collectively. This could be a very attractive addition to their platform and centralization. There's also maybe something more aspirational that Centero could become the centralization platform, recapitalize and acquire as well. The main thing, though, is I think we need to push to get to this 30 million ARR after 3 years looking forward. The multiples in the business are improving, create value, get to a cash flow positive environment, which gives us a tremendous optionality and creates a very exciting, I think, and enthusiastic investor opportunity to find liquidity in the business and to monetize for all of us and get a win.
Love it. Love it. And you know what I see here as I give my final thoughts? If you were listening to Stephen earlier, how he was mentioning the ratio, right? Because this has like a very SaaS type of feel, AI feel. It's very sexy. It checks all the boxes where it's not off-putting where an investor thinks you're building like the hardware. That's not the case at all. And I want to make sure everyone understands that this is not a hardware play at all. That's just how their tech is delivered. And when I think about how that scales, It's absolutely remarkable. And I think investors will be very, very attracted to that. So my hat's off to you, gentlemen. You're developing something that's absolutely remarkable. I think it's going to be the way people interact with property in the future, especially when it comes to the folks that want to give that high level of customer service attention, from the hotels and residence inns and that type of thing, extended stays, executive stays, to the apartment homes and the challenges that arise there. The scalability for this and how this intersects with those communities is absolutely remarkable. So great, great job, gentlemen. Folks, again, click on the link to get on my schedule. I'd love to answer any questions, potentially get you on a call with Stephen and Daniel themselves, of course, if it merits their attention and yours. But I really think you should be considering taking a look. Does this make sense to have in your portfolio? Well, my goodness, I think the writing's on the wall. The technology is there. They're implementing it, and you've guys got a phenomenal IP moat, and I'm excited to be able to heighten the visibility and awareness to Centero. Go to their website as well, Centero.ai, to finish watching that incredible video that really speaks volumes. And I will see you on the next one, everybody. Thanks so much. It was great to have you guys on. Take care, everybody. See you, Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guys. All right, we'll see you on the next one.